This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Zehr. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is Vanessa Marshall, Harrison Dula from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Joining us today for a cup of coffee to talk about the top 5 ways Star Wars shows us the importance of family are 2 returning guests. First, we're going to bring in the co-creator of Coffee with Kenobi, Mr. Cory Clubb.
Well, hello there. Glad to be on. Always fun to be here. Like to be done with the
Did you say hello there because of Obi-Wan Kenobi? Is that
hello
why?
There. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, there you go.
I guess, yeah. It's kind of habit, right?
It is indeed. Also joining us, she was on the show, I know at least one other time. I think this is your second appearance on Coffee with Kenobi. She is a film critic for Rotten Tomatoes and a family entertainment and travel writer, and one of my favorite people in all of fandom, Tania Lamb. Tania, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
You are so welcome. It is going to be fun. So you're both big family. You come from big families. You have wonderful families of your own. You're also big Disney fans, and I feel like Star Wars and Disney, one of the reasons they go together so well is because of the emphasis of family. So we're getting close to Thanksgiving, and I was thinking about how Star Wars really does show us the importance of family in a lot of different ways. So we're coming up with our top 5s tonight to kind of go through that. Now, Cory, how did you come up with your list?
Yeah, it's interesting. You kind of sent me the message around the topic, and I thought, well, what does that look like? And I started thinking of different things about the saga and Star Wars in my own family, of course. You mentioned we've got 5 kids, and so we're pretty busy ourselves. And of course, my wife comes from a large family as well, and I've got 3 brothers. So it's like it's all-encompassing kind of thing. And I got thinking about that, and how Star Wars kind of meshes with that. I came up with basically 5 words that relate to the importance of family. So that's kind of how I took that, I guess, and then related to some of the characters between the saga and whatnot. And I'm curious what you guys come up with and how you kind of take it as well. But not an easy task for sure.
No, it wasn't. In fact, my list is malleable. I may end up changing it based on what the 2 of you say, because I'm sure you'll have cool ideas. Tania, how'd you come up with your list?
Basically, I kind of Googled it and then stole some people's ideas and then kind of put my own thoughts into it.
All right. I like it. I like that algorithm.
Best artist steal. Is that how it goes? Isn't that how it goes?
It is.
Something. It's flattery, imitation.
Yeah, there you go.
Like that.
I like it.
There's something to that. Mine list was based on, I just sort of reflected on different moments from Star Wars that have always hit that for me when I'm teaching. We talk about that theme a lot, not only in Star Wars, but in Marvel or whatever mythology we're talking about, whatever story we're talking about at the time. Those themes are timeless and hit me. Plus, I took some things from my own personal experiences as well. So, Tania, why don't we start with you? I listed mine 5 to 1. I mean, they're all fairly similar, but number 1 has the most meaning to me, I guess. So, Tania, what is your number 5?
So we were supposed to have like numbered these in order of importance, or was that the way it worked?
That is what Casey Kasem used to do on American Top 40. So that's what I do.
Okay, well, mine are in no particular order.
No problem. That's the host's fault for not telling you that in advance.
I am also going to blame the host, so I agree with that.
You should.
So when I was kind of looking this up, one of the things that somebody had said was, "Don't be a jerk." And so that one made me laugh because sometimes, so I also have 5 children and have a big family. And sometimes like the siblings are jerks to each other. But in Star Wars, at the end of the day, everybody still loves each other, even though some people were not nice to each other. I mean, especially Darth Vader was not the best father ever. But in the end, he's willing to do what he had to do for his son and his family.
I like it. That's an excellent way to start it off. Cory, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is the word strength. And I kind of pull it through, like, where do you get your strength from? Somebody asks you that question. Oh, I get it from, a friendship or my work, or and a lot of people say family. It's kind of the thing that people say, and there's good days and there's bad days, right? People have, and I think there's sometimes you reflect on the good and the bad, and take that good and let it strengthen you in those hard times. And I do think of Vader in that moment in Return of the Jedi when he had a choice to make, and it wasn't an easy choice to take on the Emperor, and he had to have strength based on physical strength, but also a mental strength, and in a way that was empowering to him. And I kind of thought that scene, and I thought, man, that takes a lot, and that's what he's doing that for, family. It's his strength in that moment that makes him take action. And I think a lot of the times too, you ask sports figures and things like that, and you say, where do you get your strength? How do you, what do you do that? What have you accomplished? And they say, oh, it's my family gives me my strength. They encourage me. They cheer me on. And so I think that's really reputable, basically in our lives and in Star Wars.
I like you basically both had the same idea. Centered around Vader's eventual redemption and through love of family, through love of son. How cool. How cool. My number 5 is sort of all encompassing. And so I'm going to start a kind of broad picture and then narrow it down as I funnel down to number 1. But for me, the thing I love so much about Star Wars, and I've talked about this many times, especially recently, is the importance of found family, the power of found family. Both with my family, when I met my amazing wife, she had 2 little boys who were 7 and 12 when I met them, and they instantly became my sons. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And then shortly after that, Mason was born. That was a found family, and it was beautiful. And that's very similar to Luke and Leia, Rey, Finn, and Poe, Anakin and Obi-Wan, the cast of Rebels. Wherever you want to go with this, the people that you grow up with are family, but sometimes that means friends. Sometimes that means people you meet later in life. Sometimes that means people you meet online that become friends through other things as well. And I just think it's a very realistic approach to how the world actually works. Fiction works the best when it's able to tackle more complex subjects through a comfortable lens of fiction. And I know as an educator that many of my students have brothers, sisters, siblings, or friends that are good family, but they weren't born into the same family household. But yet, because the love, respect, and admiration they have for one another, that creates that family dynamic. And I feel like Star Wars does that as well or better than any mythology.
Totally agree.
Same.
There you go.
Almost stole my next one a little bit.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
it's on an article I published, so maybe. Just kidding.
Maybe I took it from you.
Maybe. I've always wanted to be plagiarized and know about it. That's good.
I'll do that for you if you want.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, number 4, Tanya.
Okay, so my next one was kind of the same concept. Is friendship. You were talking about found family, and friendship to me are like family. You know how there's that saying of you can choose your friends, but not your family. And so it reminded me of C-3PO in The Rise of Skywalker, when he's basically saying, I'm taking one last look at my friends, when he thinks that he may lose everything or be deprogrammed or whatever. And so, you were saying how people are kind of forced into situations, and that was kind of how, here's this droid that has all of these feelings and was willing to sacrifice basically everything because he had developed this friendship and this love of the people that he was with and who he had gone on adventures with and who sacrificed things for him. And so I think Star Wars just does a really great job of making people feel things, and that's what friendship is all about.
Absolutely. That does tie in really, really nicely. And you're so right. These friends that we have, they do become like family to us. And because of the reasons that you mentioned. I love it. Cory, what do you have for your number 4?
Yeah, the next word I've got for number 4 is the word love, and that's an obvious one, right? Family is love and people you care for, and
That's all you need.
It is. I mean, that's one of the most powerful things we see, I think, in Star Wars is the power of love. And we see it with, in the prequels, Shmi and Anakin, and that love for him to know that he's going to do something better. We see it in Anakin and Padme, and it turns, into a darkness. So there can be a powerful thing, but also be corrupted. We see it in Luke and Leia, and we see it in Han and Kylo Ren. And I just, it's just like those dynamic forces are so strong there of they're pitted against a nature of good and bad. And the thing that always wins out is love. I think that that is the really driving force, no pun intended, within Star Wars. But it is, it's interesting that, you see it throughout the saga and throughout a lot of the other materials, the books and TV shows and whatnot. There's just a drive of love. And so I think that's a big part of family and a big part of Star Wars.
Well said, sir.
Thank you.
I like that. I like how you're centering it around words and what inspires from those words. That's pretty good.
Thanks.
You're welcome, little buddy. My next one. My next one is, I'm sort of debating how I want to do this. So I guess I'll go with another key story point first. And this is one that Mason gave me the inspiration for. Just right before we turned on the microphones tonight, he said, Dad, you should talk about Kanan's sacrifice. That was cool that an 8-year-old would even think about the concept of that, I guess. But in Rebels, towards the end of the series, Kanan sacrifices himself to save Hera and the rest of the crew of the Ghost. And right before it happens, he was blind for a while, and then his eyes become very clear as he is dying. And that's such a powerful metaphor, isn't it? Like when you finally understand what matters, the world just seems to be more in focus and much more clear and concrete. And I feel like that is an excellent way to demonstrate that. And that was Kanan's found family. The crew of the Ghost was his found family. We later found out that he and Hera were about to have a child together. So that's obviously very family oriented. Doesn't get much more family oriented than that. But it's really a beautiful, powerful, emotional way to do that. And also, encompasses that sacrifice and that selfless nature that helps us to see the world more clearly if we choose that path.
Look at you going all deep here, Dan.
So now let's go to number 3. Tania, we're back to you.
Okay, so number 3 for me was basically Star Wars has taught me to be present in my children's lives. And so, so you see a lot of examples like Darth Vader obviously wasn't there for Luke. But then you have the flip side where Kylo Ren didn't necessarily appreciate what he had or his parents. And Leia, it seemed like, was always there for him. Maybe not like at a closeness, like physically, but you knew that she was always had put him first. And I think as a parent now, it has kind of taught me that, sometimes I have to, especially when I'm raising teenagers, that I have to give them their space. But as long as they know that I'm here for them, no matter what they need, that sometimes that's enough. And I don't need to necessarily smother, but I also need to put them first and know that, and have them know that I am there for them, whether they appreciate it or not. That's not the point. But always just be there, put my children first.
That's great.
That's so great. And it also, yeah, for sure. And it also something that Yoda is frustrated with when he first meets Luke. He says, never his mind on where he was doing. And he emphasized over and over again the importance of being present in the moment and being present for your kids. And it, to someone I think who's not a parent, it may seem, like that's easy, but it's actually not. Life has an incredible way of distracting us. and helping us kind of move our heads around to different places. So I really like that a lot. I wish I would have thought of that.
I stole it from somebody. Bad at my own stuff.
Well, it worked well.
Dan Zehr or Dan Z. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, one of those yahoos. All right, Cory, what's your number 3?
I like what Tanya said there, and my number 3 kind of melts into that a little bit. I wrote down mentorship, and I wrote it down just because I was thinking through Star Wars and the Jedi, and in the sense of, you don't give a Jedi and a Padawan, and you have this kinship. They're not family, right? They're kind of a brotherhood or a sisterhood, a teacher and a learner, and I think, but there's a mentorship there, and you have that in family. And like you alluded to, Tanya, like the fact that you're not only a dad and a mom and a sister and a brother, like as a family, but you have these roles, but also you are expected to put up with that role in a sense of what I'm trying to say, outside the bounds of trying to lead, I guess, and mentor in a way. Yeah, just it's not like necessarily so close as you mentioned Yoda, and I think that's, I don't know if he's so much family, but he mentored Luke, and Luke and Leia mentored Rey, and I think there's a kinship there, and a big one obviously is Obi-Wan and Anakin. He calls him his brother, in that essence. I think that's why I kind of pulled that out a little bit. It's like, you're my brother. Like, he thought of him more so than just a mentor relationship, but that's what it started with. I think that the relationships can be that way. They can be a mentorship, whether it be a younger brother and older brother, or siblings that have that, I've got some experience on you, I can teach you some things. So I think that's definitely important in Star Wars, and throughout, we see a lot of the different associations there.
Wow, you both brought your A games today. I love it. Those are both very hard to follow. Wow, very good. I knew when I talked to you both that you would give me some new food for thought, so I appreciate that very much. My number 3 is, it's just the podcast, just Coffee with Kenobi. I mean, the amount of people I've met because of the show, the amount of examples of kindness I have seen. Our Patreon page, 10% of our monthly contributions go to the St. Jude Children's Hospital. We raised so much money for them. A few weekends ago, there was a Star Wars Podathon, and they raised over $8,000 for Make-A-Wish.
Awesome.
So not only my podcast, but just the Star Wars podcast community in general. The way, we're aware that there is sometimes a small percentage of fandom that can get a little less family oriented, right? And a little negative or cynical. And in my experiences, in over 8.5 years of doing this show, I've seen so many examples of kindness and love, and that's very inspiring to me. And that to me that is very Star Wars. When I was a kid, my parents got divorced, but my earliest, fondest memories as a child, when there was just the 4 of us, and we were watching Star Wars or playing together, or just going to movies, or just playing outside with baseball bats, playing like there were lightsabers. Those are a lot of great fun family memories. And now with this podcast, I've got so many other countless brothers and sisters all over, and it's because of Star Wars, and I love that so much.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Dan, because that's something that we always kind of say, our podcast family or things like that, or mention that in that community. Mm-hmm. You mentioned, folks maybe don't get along or don't see eye to eye on certain things in Star Wars, but I can have a conversation with a lot of people in the Star Wars community and criticize Star Wars for what it is, and that's fair. But have a conversation, have a community belief around it, and that seems to be grow people together. Like you mentioned, and I think that's important. I think even in Star Wars and fandom as well, and and life. So I think that's really unique. And I think it's unique within the Star Wars fandom too, because I think a lot of other fandoms might not be made that close knit, and I'm not for sure on that. But the fact that, like, I think Star Wars is such a huge fandom that to have something like that is rare. It
is. I mean, in our Facebook group, the CWK Cafe, there are countless examples all the time of people, hey, here's
Mhm.
a link to something that you were wanting to pre-order, or hey, did you see this? Or hey, what do you think about that? Or I really like this episode of The Mandalorian. Tell me what you loved about it. I mean, it's just very selfless and very kind. And that's to me, that's what family should be. All right, well, let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we return, we'll all share our top 2 moments of how Star Wars shows us the importance of family. Maybe there'll be some honorable mentions. We'll find out after the break.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
We are back talking about the top 5 ways Star Wars shows us the importance of family. That's kind of a tongue twister, apparently, isn't it? Tania, I believe we are back to you. You've got 2 left. What is your number 2?
So my number 2 actually kind of correlates with your number 3. And especially when you were talking about community, you guys obviously have this podcast and that family, and I got to meet, some of your fans and like family and at Disney Springs that one time. And so it was really cool for me to be able to witness that. But also as a fangirl, like somebody who I admire a lot is Ashley Eckstein, because she brought this huge community of fangirls, when there wasn't merchandise for females, for girls, for women. And she saw this need in this community, and and that whole Star Wars community has made me feel really welcome when, back in the day, like it wasn't cool maybe to like Star Wars, especially if you were a girl. And just like you said, you can find some common ground and a lot of kindness with Star Wars fans. And I really love that. I work as a cast member at Disney right now, and I'm a seater at one of the restaurants there. And anytime I see a guest that has a Star Wars shirt or a Star Wars mask or something like that, then I always can bring up something to chit chat with them about. And you can see like the little fans, their eyes light up, and we'll start talking, and we'll just get excited. And because, you found one of your people. And so that's what I really love about Star Wars and this community and this family is just that sense of belonging.
And then making those little connections just from a t-shirt or like mouse ears that have like the Star Wars logo on them, or seeing a lightsaber that like you said, it's like sports too. Like there's something that are like common denominators that instantly bring people together. That's so good. And I'm sure every single time you say, hey, you like podcasts, kids? Have I got the Star Wars podcast for you?
You should listen to
Disney.
Coffee with Kenobi.
Yeah. I'm sure that's very ethical when you're on Disney's dime doing your job. That's really fair. All right, Cory,
Yes.
what is your number 2?
My number 2 is the word adoption. I know it's important in our family. Our youngest daughter was adopted out of foster care, and so it's important for us to keep that in mind. And I'm actually surprised at how many examples there are in Star Wars of adoption. We see it most recently with Omega in the Bad Batch. We see it with Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen taking on Luke, the Organas, the Skywalkers, even, and Rey. And funny enough, I thought about this and Mandalorian and Grogu. I mean, there's some adoption there, and the fact that someone needs someone else, and it's not a blood relation. It's a different type of connection that's special. It's unique. And it makes and shapes people that might not have the family they need, and that's important, I think, in life, for folks who don't have those safe places. And again, in Star Wars, it's just so prevalent. And again, I'm floored sometimes in the fact that that's kind of what Star Wars gives people, fans and such too, kind of an adoption, a place to belong. Like you mentioned, Tania, I think that's important. You mentioned your girls and having opportunities to see, heroic figures in Star Wars that are female. I know my daughter has 3 action figures that are all female action figures from Star Wars, and she loves that stuff. And it's just like, wow, I think that's really cool. I mean, the fact that, adoption is prevalent in the fact that, you can take someone in and let them thrive and grow and love on them. So that's my number 2 point there.
That's beautiful. Well, that's your number 2. I can't wait to hear what your number 1 is. So my number 2 is a little similar to my number 3, and I just put celebration bonding. Right? To me, Star Wars Celebration is sort of like Star Wars Thanksgiving. Everybody gets together. They've been apart for a long time. They travel from all over the world to see each other, to spend time together, often leading to breaking bread after the convention, or grab a quick bite at lunch while you're running between panels and getting pictures and autographs and whatever you're doing at Star Wars Celebration. But again, it's about that community and that fellowship and that mutual admiration for a specific thing, certain goals that you have. You want to celebrate the saga together. Now you can do this with any fandom, certainly. The D23 Expo is another great example of that too. But with this, it brings together Star Wars Celebration. And, we're going to have Celebration before, but COVID canceled or postponed that. And so we're going to have it next year, next May. And I think that extra time of waiting to be together and getting everybody healthy and safe is going to make such a big difference. It's going to feel like a family reunion. And every time in these movies, when our heroes get to be reunited after long journeys, long time away from each other, and they come together and they have those hugs or share those moments together, that's special because it's real. We can relate to that, and I think that's a great thing as well.
Oh,
all right,
Star Wars Celebration.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's go ahead. We're doing an imaginary drum roll. Tania, it's up to you for your number 1.
All right. My number 1 is that it is okay to have a dysfunctional family. And I think since we're talking, since next week is Thanksgiving, there's a whole lot of dysfunction going on sometimes during the holidays when everybody gets together. But I think, Star Wars kind of teaches us, like all of the things that we have talked about, right? Families aren't perfect, or friends are family, community is family. And at the end of the day, nobody is perfect. Some people have probably done worse things than others to family members, but you always love them and hopefully forgive them when, and it's good for you to move on, and so that you can also be in a healthy mental state for whatever is your next chapter in life. And so, Star Wars just teaches me that it doesn't have to be perfection to be really awesome.
That's very honest and it's very real. I'm glad that you brought that up, because sometimes at Thanksgiving, the turkey isn't always something you're eating. Sometimes it's somebody in your family. Sometimes I'm the turkey. Who knows? Hard. No, that seems hard to fathom.
Strange Uncle Dan.
I think that's
all the toys in his room is weird.
Only in this room. Only in this room. You would never know. Only in the studio. You know that. You've been here plenty of times.
Yep.
So that's great, Tania. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's important. Again, it's relatable because it's real, and we're able to find a bridge to Star Wars through it. Cory, I'm looking forward to what the word is for your number 1.
Well, this was the first one I actually wrote down because it kind of just I was thinking through the saga, and this is one that kind of steps out a lot. We see through the hero's journey, and this is the word hope. Tanya, you alluded to forgiveness, and you alluded to the fact that people aren't perfect, and these characters we see in Star Wars are flawed characters, and that's what makes them so endearing, I think, to us. We see a little bit of ourselves in them, and we say, I messed up a couple of times, I failed, or I didn't do something right, or I'm not perfect. And I think there's a hope out there in family because, with my kids, I look to them as, growing and changing for the next generation to come. And that's kind of how I put that, I guess, in the sense of we see that, Vader's mistakes and Luke growing from those and learning from those. And I think that's important through family, that not everybody's perfect and that there's always hope. There's, can lean on people, share with them your struggles, and grow from there. There's hope in that next step. So I think it's very important, I think, to recognize that and be open to that for folks within a family. So there you go.
Very good. Both your number ones, totally worth the wait. My number one for how Star Wars shows us the importance of family is teaching us to celebrate those moments that you have, those special connections you have with one another. At the end of The Empire Strikes Back, Leia's lost Han, and I feel like him going into the ice at the exact same time thaws her out and helps her to be open to love and her love for Han. But when they know they're going to go searching for him, Han or Leia and Luke share a moment just on the bridge together of that rebel transport, connected in their love for Han and their grief for him, but knowing they're going to find him. And that's a celebration moment. That's a bonding moment. Those are important, unique moments. Rey and Leia have some of theirs in The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, you could count on plenty of them, and I relate them to things with my family. Star Wars has brought a lot of special moments for all of us with our families. I mean, it's the only movie that I can think of where I consistently, when I go to a Star Wars movie in a theater, I see families getting together from separate parts of the world or the state or what have you, and they're taking pictures in front of the movie poster. To me, you don't see that all the time.
Yeah.
But with Star Wars, I see that very regularly, and I think that's very heartwarming. Even people who are just very casual fans, they know it's special because, our parents brought us to Star Wars. We bring our kids to Star Wars, and their kids will bring their kids to Star Wars. And it's a really beautiful thing. We spoke about the solo premiere earlier. I brought Peyton. That was the first Star Wars movie premiere I got to go to. I brought Peyton to that, our oldest. And that was amazing sharing that with him. With Parker, I took him to one of the Galactic Nights that they used to have at Disney World. It was just the two of us. Mason and I have had countless Star Wars moments together. One of my favorites, certainly taking him to Galaxy's Edge was great, but for the Star Wars book, when I did a signing, he sat next to me and he just watched me sign books. And then sometimes some friends of the show say, "Hey, Mason, will you sign my book too?" And that was so special to me. I mean, the fact that they were so kind and appreciative of him. He's been on Facebook Live plenty of times. He's been on the show since he was 3 years old, randomly reviewing movies. And it's just the greatest thing to be a dad and be able to celebrate this with my kids. I remember watching Clone Wars with the boys when they were little. And then that fast forward to watch The Mandalorian with Mason. And then my wife, who has been on the show before and has been pretty clear that she doesn't always get Star Wars, but she likes it. It makes me happy. And so she and I went to the Rise of Skywalker premiere together, and I got to say the sentence, "Harrison Ford, this is Deanna Zehr. Deanna Zehr, this is Harrison Ford." I mean,
Dan always has to drop Harrison in there for crying out loud.
Hey, well, I was running out of time. I wanted to get it under the wire. So yeah, those special moments. Star Wars has brought so many of them to so many of us, and I feel very, very blessed and fortunate to be able to share all these things with my family. And that makes Star Wars so much more special to me. To me, it's not about an action figure. It's about the memory of going to the store with your child or going with your father or mother and getting that and just what comes from that. I love that so much.
It's interesting you bring that up, the fact that, you go to see a Star Wars movie and you bring your family. I've got a lot of other fandoms that I enjoy that I don't necessarily share with my family just because they're not interested or they're up their alley or whatever. But Star Wars has always been a fixture, I think, for us and for other families that just they grow with it. They and the years go on, and it just continues to get bigger and bigger and better. And he's showing us the picture of Harrison Ford, and he kissed it. Great. That's great. But yeah, for sure, I think it's a great one to end on. Dan, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Of course. Well,
I love like thinking one of my daughters really loves Captain Phasma.
really?
Yeah, and I don't know why or what specifically resonates with her, but I still have this picture of us at Hollywood Studios back in the day when they had the parade with the stormtroopers and Captain Phasma led that, and she was dressed in a Captain Phasma costume, and Phasma just kind of like gave her this look like, "Hey, girl, I know." And it like lives in my daughter's memories forever. And so, yes, little moments and little memories are what make it all worth it.
It's magic. It's totally magic. And who knows how it inspires them. Did either of you have any honorable mentions or things that almost made the list or that you thought of throughout our conversation?
No, I enjoyed listening to you guys right off your list because you said things that I didn't really think of necessarily, and I think that was the community one was a big one for me. That I was like, oh yeah, duh, that's an easy one, but that was good. Yeah, forgiveness was another one too. I think it's a big play inside Star Wars and understanding each other, and friendship was the other one too. Like it's not necessarily the circle of family exceeds just the blood relation and the friendship. We see that with a lot of other characters in Star Wars, the friendship there. So it's really good.
Excellent. Tanya?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe not something that didn't make my list, but yeah, what both of you said, I think just tied everything together and kind of made me think a little past of what I was thinking. And now I'm just kind of going through all of the memories I have of with my family and Star Wars. And I had just thought of one too of my husband and I when we were in college, like when we were just kind of becoming friends, not necessarily dating. I remember that year, my freshman year of college was when episodes 4, 5, and 6 were being re-released in the theaters. And so we went to school in Utah and it was so cold. And we had to, like a big group of our friends spent the night outside for 3 days in a row. So we would take different shifts so that we could get good seats and at that time I liked Star Wars, but like, I was like, all right, I'm just kind of hanging out here to talk to people and to get to know boys or whatever. But that's, I think, what really solidified my love for Star Wars when I rewatched them all in the theaters and really brought me that sense of community and bonding with other people.
I love that. So that would have been January, February, March 1997.
Correct. I was a freshman in college.
That's so cool. Those are some really, really fun moments. I mean, for me, I feel like I kind of hit the ones that I really thought of honorable mention wise. It's more just about specific memories or moments. And I like, back to what the two of you were saying. I know, Cory, you just got back from Disney World, so I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Your oldest, or not your oldest, but was it Wesley? He went to Savvy's and it was Noah.
Yep.
That built a lightsaber for the first time.
Yeah.
And what was that experience like for you watching him go
I've got a couple of experiences that mix in Star Wars and Disney. I know the lightsaber one was a big one because that's unique experience. You can only take one person with you, and he out of his family, he chose me. But I think it's really cool. And what's unique for that was he had a summer job and he was saving specifically for building a lightsaber in Star Wars in Galaxy's Edge, and went and did that. And that is a unique experience for him to see him, earn that and the whole method of going through those actions of building it and choosing things. And he's such an artistic guy, so it's cool to see him along the way doing that, and then just being there with him, and just like I said, just being in that moment, building that moment and creating that moment is fantastic. I know another big one for us was riding the Millennium Falcon for the first time, the Smuggler's Run, and you get these positions, and one of them was the pilot, and I kind of got the gunner or something like that. And Noah looked at me. He had got me. He was like, "Here, Dad, you're gonna have to be the first pilot. And it's just like, I'll never forget that. I mean, the ride was great too, but like that moment standing on inside the Millennium Falcon area and him going, "Here you go, Dad. You get to drive the Millennium Falcon." And it's just like, oh man, that is just so cool that our kids and our family can replicate that experience because of all the things we've talked about tonight. Building moments through love and friendship and strength and whatnot. So it's really impressive that it continues to grow, and Star Wars has done this all along.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Zehr, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
As we near the end of the show today, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a cup of coffee with me and for helping to spread the word about our Star Wars family we've got here at Coffee with Kenobi. Be sure to tune in Monday night. I'm on Facebook Live at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/live or www.facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi and have a cup of coffee, tea, or any beverage of your choosing with me as we continue the conversation. To join us in the CWK Cafe, which is our Facebook group, and share your Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-friendly, spoiler-free place that is also drama-free, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community and be part of the conversation, talk about this week's show, or just talk about some Star Wars. We have a lot of fun, and you'll make some new friends as well as catch up with longtime friends along the way. I also want to thank all of the new and longtime members of the CWK Alliance and let you know how much I appreciate your help and encouragement. If you want to join the CWK Alliance, go to www.cwkalliance.com and sign up today. Not only will you help out Coffee with Kenobi, but you also get access to CWK Pour-Over, the exclusive weekly podcast not heard anywhere else. It's a great way to support and help out the show, and 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital to support the incredibly important work they are doing to help these brave children and their families. Plus, contributors at the CWK All-Star level can watch a video podcast of CWK Pour-Over hosted by me, Tom Gross, and Cory Clubb. Feel free to reach out anytime if you have any questions. In addition to being part of the community on Facebook, please don't forget to visit our website at www.coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. If you have a question for me or just want to share your thoughts on the air, feel free to email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com and I'll share them on the show. You can also connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zehr, MRZEHR, or on Instagram at Dan Zehr CWK. There are also a lot more ways to connect with me and Coffee with Kenobi on social media. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi. Check us out on Pinterest or subscribe to our Coffee with Kenobi YouTube channel. On our YouTube channel, you can find Facebook Live video, different interviews throughout the years, highlights of video coverage throughout the Coffee with Kenobi history, and the audio podcast itself. You can order my book, The Star Wars Book, which I co-wrote with Lucasfilm's Pablo Hidalgo and Cole Horton, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million, Walmart, or anywhere books are sold. You can also find my writing on Coffee with Kenobi's website, as well as StarWars.com, where I am an official blogger there, and on IGN, where I contribute occasionally to articles about Star Wars, as well as other popular culture topics. If you are considering starting a podcast or a blog, let me know how I can help you get started and make your creative vision a reality. Be sure to check out danzmedia.com and we can get the process started. I am also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. I want to inspire you to be inspired so you can take that first step into a larger world. Thanks as always to our Coffee with Kenobi sponsors, especially MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, our travel partner and your one-stop shop for all things Walt Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Cruise Lines, or anywhere on the planet you want to go on your vacation. Please go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel to book your magical vacation and help support Coffee with Kenobi in the process. If you like the show, please tweet out that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with us. And if the Force is especially with you, please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Google Podcasts. Every review makes a huge difference and helps to spread the word, and I can't thank you enough for your help, for your support, and your friendship. I love so much being a part of this wonderful Star Wars community, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do for me and Coffee with Kenobi. Well said, my friend. Well, I can't think of a better note to end that on. Cory, please let everybody know where they can reach out to you if they want to continue the conversation.
Absolutely. You can go online on Twitter at Cory Clubb. Check me out there and drop your favorite thing about your family and Star Wars. Love to hear it. And you can email me at coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com.
And Tania, where can people reach out to you and find all of your great work? I know I've said this before, but your website, Lola Lamb Chops, I love it. But the main thing I love about it is, honestly, when it comes to knowing if a movie or a show is safe for my kids, I trust you. And you have great reviews all the time where you go through the work and write it up for us. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, you can find me at lolalambchops.com where basically, yes, I review movies to tell parents what they need to know, and then they can decide whether it's appropriate for their kids or not. I just kind of present the information so that they have it. And you can find me all over social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at Lola Lamb Chops.
A big thank you again to Cory and Tania for joining me to talk about the top 5 ways Star Wars shows us the importance of family. There are just so many wonderful topics out there that are ripe for the world of Star Wars and conversation. And of course, it's wonderful to be able to share it with each and every one of you. Be sure to join me Monday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time for Facebook Live. We're going to look at your top 5 favorite moments from Star Wars Visions Toby 1. This is I believe it's the 5th episode in the first season, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about that. And I hope you'll be sure to join us either live on Facebook or on YouTube later for the replay, or you, of course, can hear the audio podcast feed as well. Next week is Thanksgiving. We're going to have a very special Thanksgiving show for you featuring Steve Sansweet of Rancho Obi-Wan. I can't wait to bring that conversation to you. I think you're going to have a blast, just as we're going to have a blast bringing it to each and every one of you. Have a wonderful week and weekend, everybody. And remember, this is the podcast you're looking for. See you next time.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.